Welcome to the Root of All Broth. I'm Kathleen Hill, and this is the show where we talk about the inspirations behind the foods that we cook. Thanksgiving is less than a week away, so that means it is time to talk turkey. So as you can see, today I'm going to teach you how to make a full Thanksgiving meal. I've had friends request gravy and turkey, so for Menna, Brooke, and all my friends out there that are looking forward to this episode, here you go, and let's get cooking. So I don't make stuffing that goes inside the bird, but I do put onion and celery inside the bird. So I have one medium onion that I've quartered. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the bird. Now my bird has been brining for a couple of days in water and salt, so I will not add additional salt to this. After you brine, if you do a dry brine, you simply need to rinse out the cavity and rinse all over the bird. If you did a wet, you still need to rinse it off and then dry it for a day in the refrigerator, or leave it out and let it dry, or pat it dry really good so your skin gets really nice and brown. I have added a few stalks of celery and one onion. So now I'm going to truss the bird. You want to stuff it first, then truss it, and then we're going to oil it. Okay, so now we're going to truss our bird. First, we're going to start underneath the bottom of the turkey, and we're going to bring the wings up, and we're going to cross over in the cavity. Then we're going to go underneath. Keep it tight. Go underneath the bird again. Cross it again. And now we're going to come up and tie our drumsticks together. So you might be asking, why do I need to truss the turkey? Well, you don't have to, but if you want your turkey to look beautiful on your serving platter, be held together nicely, you want to truss your turkey. And we're going to tie up the drumsticks. Make sure that they're really good and secure. I'll just go around them a few times and then come up and then tie it. And then we'll be ready to oil and season. Okay, so now I'm ready to season and oil my bird. If you saw my roasted chicken recipe, we use butter for that. For this turkey, we use olive oil. You can do either for the chicken as well. So I'm going to put a link to that chicken recipe here if you're interested in roasted chicken. But for this, we're just going to do olive oil and some paprika. I'm not going to add, again, more salt, because you remember this had a salt brine. For a salt brine, I use kosher salt. I salt the bird completely inside and out, and then I let it sit in water for 1 to 2 days, and then we rinse it out. Don't forget to rinse it. The first time I ever did a brine, it was a dry brine, and I didn't rinse it, and whoa, was that salty, guys. It was awful. But anyway, my husband ate the whole thing. So, goes to show you, meat still can be delicious. Now I'm going to add some paprika. And then I'm going to put this in my roasting pan. And I hear the little munchkins. They're always around somewhere. It wouldn't be a video if you didn't hear my munchkins in the background. All right, we're ready to put it in the roasting pan. Okay, I have the turkey in the roasting pan. Again, this is a deep roasting pan. All of the fat will drip down into the bottom of this. We can use that for gravy later. This has room so the air can circulate all the way around the bird while we're cooking. We have our temperature set at 350, and we're going to cook it to 10 to 12 minutes a pound. So it'll take about 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, but we'll keep checking it. You need to check it when there's about an hour left. So we will do that after the first hour. I'll take a look and check the internal temperatures. Not only will we be making this turkey today, I'm going to show you cornbread stuffing and some wonderful homemade cranberry sauce and gravy. So let's go ahead and get this bird in the oven, and we'll go on to our next steps. Okay, for the gravy, I've taken the giblets and the neck out of the turkey. When I actually went to do the brine, of course, you know, you unwrap your turkey, you take out the neck and the giblets. I put those in a Ziploc bag while the brine was working on the turkey. I have now put those on the back of the stove with some water. I let it come to a boil, and then I'm going to let that reduce, pretty much simmer all day. I'm going to keep adding water as I want to make a nice, rich broth. And then we'll show you later how I turn that broth into a nice gravy for our turkey. But right now, what every Southern household has generally on Thanksgiving is cornbread dressing. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First, you're going to start with about 10-inch or a little bit bigger pone of cornbread. Just use the cornbread that's on the back of the package of cornmeal. I use yellow cornmeal. Then we're going to use about 4 or 5 additional eggs. So make this the night before. It's super easy, or just make it in the morning. But if you can make it ahead of time, take that burden off of you. Then we're also going to use a bag of pre-made stuffing mix. So not stovetop or anything like that, but any kind of other stuffing mix that you might desire. So let me show you what we're going to use. Okay, Pepperidge Farm is not a sponsor, but this is their Herb Season Classic stuffing. I'll use this whole bag mixed with the cornbread to make our wonderful cornbread dressing. I'll also use 2 onions and a whole head of celery, and we're going to process that. We're going to use additional eggs and, of course, sage, which is the magic ingredients, and 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. So I'll show you how to put it all together. So we're going to go ahead and get started by crumbling our cornbread and our stuffing mix together. Okay, some people use white bread if you want to use just dried white bread with the cornbread, but that's generally what this is. It's just like different types of dried out bread, and they have some seasoning, but not much. I mean, you smell it, you can barely smell anything on it. So it's not really going to add a ton of flavor to your dressing. And that's why you're going to have to add your own ingredients later. So I'm just crumbling up this cornbread. Crumble it up with your hands. Guys, if you don't like to get your hands dirty, cooking shouldn't be your thing, because you always got to get your hands dirty. Again, you can do this the night before. And we want to get it nice and ground up. One thing I'll recommend is when you make cornbread, always put a little shortening in the bottom of a cast iron. Put it in the oven. Then pour your wonderful cornbread into it. Get that nice crust. Don't you love it? I do. You can bake it in the oven in a regular pan if you want, but that's not how I do it. I use a nice cast iron skillet. Now, get our other mix. I'm just gonna have it all together here. Once I get this mixed, we'll just move on to our next step, which will be cooking our onions and our celery. Okay, for our cornbread stuffing or dressing, what we're gonna do is we have already quartered 2 medium onions, so they're about this size, or medium large, and then a whole head of celery. I've already cut it down and removed any leafy parts from that, and we're gonna go ahead and put that in our food processor. I'm gonna use pulse. I don't want it to be too fine, but you don't want it to be chunky either. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this prepared, and then we're gonna put it on the stove. So when it gets full, we wanna go ahead and empty it. We don't wanna pulverize this celery too much, so we don't wanna make it mushy, but you don't wanna have big chunks either. So then we'll go ahead and finish our onion. Okay, so I'm done with the onion. You can take a look here. It's not too mushy, good size. We're about to put this on the pan on the stove with a stick of butter, and some wonderful smells will be coming out of our kitchen very, very soon. Our turkey is doing well, and our gravy's back on the back of the stove. You guys can do this. If you've never done it before, don't be afraid. Just because it's a meal that a lot of people come over, this might be your year to try it out, right? Because maybe not as many people are coming over. So have fun, experiment. This is a great recipe, so I hope you guys try it. So let's go on over to the stove. Guys, the secret to a good Thanksgiving is preparation. What the chefs call mise en place, getting everything ready, preparing things ahead of time that you can. Some people freeze everything. They freeze their dressing, their gravy. I don't do that, but I do prepare as much as I can ahead of time. But I wanted to show you step by step today, but you can do all of this the night before if you want to. So I'm gonna put a stick of butter in my cast iron skillet. I've got it up on medium-high heat. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put my onions in, and I'm gonna sweat them and cook them till they're translucent. Another thing I would recommend is keeping a couple of spoon rests. I have a spoon rest here, I have a spoon rest on the other side of the stove, because when you're cooking Thanksgiving, you get a lot of things going on at once. So you wanna have enough space and enough spoon rests so everything has a place. Let's go ahead and put these in. And I'll show you as they begin to cook how I want them to look. There is nothing better than the smell of onion and celery cooking together with butter. To me. So So Thanksgiving tip number 3. Number 1, prepare as much as you can the night before. Number 2, mise en place is a must. Make sure everything's in its place and out where you need it. Number 3, clean as you go. Just as soon as something's cooking and you can step away, clean that bowl and then you'll be done. No one wants to be ready for Thanksgiving meal. I mean, you're usually worn out enough from cooking all day and then have to clean up all these dishes. You're gonna have enough from your table. Hey, and another tip, tip 4, if you have friends that don't care about formality, paper plates will work and plastic spoons and forks. Or, you know, if you can reuse your silver because you want to protect the environment, just the paper plates, but anything you can do to take off the burden of having to wash at the end, do that. Now, we did make pumpkin pies this week. If you're looking for a good pumpkin pie, I did mini pumpkin pies. I've got that out on my Instagram, a recipe for that. They're delicious. You can do them in muffin pans. And for the time of Corona, if you've got people coming over, little separate pies might work out just great. So go on over to our Instagram. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. And what I want you to do is I want you to hit a big smack on that like. Smack that like today if you like Thanksgiving and you like this episode. So we're just asking you guys to stay with us. Hopefully you'll learn how to make a good Thanksgiving meal with us today. So this is cooking, smelling delicious. We've got our gravy back here on the back of the stove. Got that neck and those giblets cooking. I've got my cranberries out for later. We're going to get those cooking just a little bit. Sometimes I make spaghetti and cheese. We have a spaghetti and cheese recipe out there. Go ahead and go out there and take a look at that if you want to learn how to make spaghetti and cheese. Sometimes we'll do mashed potatoes. Depends on what your family likes, what they'll eat. I mean, if you have kids, kids can be so picky, guys. So it just depends. Okay, so we're done. You can see that the onion is translucent. Cooked some of the liquid down, but some liquid left is okay because we want to use that for our dressing. So now we're going to move on over and we're going to start incorporating everything together. Okay, continuing with our dressing, we're going to go ahead and take these 5 eggs I've broken and I'm going to whisk them together a little bit. Then I'm going to add them to the cornbread and the dressing mix. But if you're going to do this ahead of time, don't add this till the day of. So you can do sweat your onions and your celery. You can make your cornbread and your stuffing mix together, but then wait till the day of to put all the liquids in. I'll go ahead and add this. This is going to be like our binding agent. Now you can. Okay, we've incorporated the eggs. Now we're going to add the cream of chicken soup. I got 2 cans. We're going to do 1 can and mix, and then add the other can and mix. Use a wooden spoon. Best thing on the planet. I love the wooden spoon. So we've added our 2 cans, and you can see it's not even that moist. It's a lot of bread in there, so it's not going to be super wet. It depends on when you're going to make this. I'm adding my onion and my celery now, but it depends on when you're going to make this. If you make it after your turkey's done, you might have enough turkey drippings to add to this, and since I'm making it now, I'm going to actually add chicken stock to this. That's an hour on our turkey. You hear that alarm because our turkey's been cooking an hour. I checked it a few minutes ago, and it doesn't have enough broth right now for me to use for this, so I'm going to use chicken stock. And we're just going to use enough to really get this nice and moist. But right now I'm going to integrate this onion and celery, and then I'll add that chicken stock. We actually got everything in our bowl, and I've incorporated all the onion and the celery. You can hear it. You hear that mushy sound, but it's not ready yet. Now we're going to add my secret ingredient. Not really a secret. Rubbed sage. We're going to also add chicken broth to this, so I don't want to add a bunch of salt. I want to taste it after I add the chicken broth because I want to see how much salt I need to add. And then, of course, you need to check your seasoning again after you add the chicken broth, because anytime you add another ingredient, it's going to take the balance out of your dish. So you need to keep checking your levels of your sage and your salt and your pepper. I have my testing spoon here, and I will check it out. Almost there. It's really to taste. If you like sage, add a lot of sage. If you don't. But with this much stuff, you really do need to add a great bit of sage to really get flavor. Because we've got a lot of bread and a lot of onion and celery in here. So celery is the best flavor. Celery, if you leave celery out, you're going to really mess up one of your dishes if you don't like celery. Because celery is such a strong flavor that it permeates through a dish. So you don't ever want to like skim on the celery. Celery is a flavor intensifier. It's the best. I'm going to try it now. Delicious. Now, I'm going to add this stock, and I want you to watch to see the difference between what I've got now and what I'm going to have. So I'm just going to add a little bit. Now, see how much more wet it looks? And like I said, if you wait till your turkey's done, you can use your drippings from your turkey. But again, if you make any of this ahead of time and put it in your freezer or you put it in your refrigerator, you're not going to be able to use the turkey drippings. That's looking really nice. But down below, it's still a little bit dry. A little bit more, and then we're going to be done. That was probably about 2 cups total that I added. This is looking beautiful. Okay, I added more sage and some black pepper. And this is looking great, and it's ready to go in the pan. Now our turkey will be done in about, I'm just going to check it every 15 minutes until it's at 2 hours, and then I'll check, and it should be done. But turkey, I'm sure all of you have heard the whole thing about turkey being dry, and that's why people don't like turkey. So after it's been an hour, you can check it. And of course, the more you open your oven door, the more heat you're going to lose. So I'm just going to do every 15 minutes, start checking my temperatures and see where we are. Okay, I've poured it out. Now, like I told you, this is a pretty deep bowl, but the stuff on the bottom, it has a tendency not to get as moist as the stuff at the top if you don't, you can really get under there. But I'm going to add a little more chicken broth to this because this is a little bit drier than I want it to be. And it was just because that area at the bottom needed to be mixed up and integrated a little bit better. Now, you hear that? Cooking's all about sight and taste and even your hearing, because you can hear the moisture in it. If you stir it and you're not hearing that nice, sound, then you know more moisture probably needs to be added. I'm seeing some corners. I'm going to add just a little bit more. Again, maybe 2.5 cups. That's what I've added so far, total. Now, this is looking where I want it to be. I'll taste it, re-season again if I need to add anything additional. Salt, pepper, or sage, and then it'll be ready for the oven. Now you can keep this in your refrigerator until it's time to go in. It's got egg in it, so I wouldn't leave it out all day, but it's just for a few minutes to be okay, but put it in the fridge and then get ready for cooking later. Okay, we've taken the turkey out to check it. So right now we're around 120. We need to get to 155 to 160. And so we're going to put it back in. Of course, I'm just checking it every 15 minutes because we don't want it to be overdone. So I'm going to put it right back in, and then we'll get started with our cranberry sauce. On the back of the stove here, I have my neck and giblets for the gravy. I've added a little bit more water because it's cooked down. You'll continually cook it down. Right before we get ready to make gravy, we're going to skim the top and take all that foam off. But right now, we're just going to continue to cook that to make a really nice, rich broth. Okay, while I am cleaning up here, I wanted to remind everybody all the recipes for all the Thanksgiving meal prep and everything that we've talked about today will be found in the description. And so you can find all of that. I know that I do a lot of this by eye, but I will put some measurements in there, of course, for you. But of course, whatever kind of chicken broth you use is going to make a difference with your salt. I did add a little bit, about a tablespoon of salt to this and some black pepper after we got in the pan. Did not add any more sage. I will put measurements though for you. But again, keep tasting throughout the process because ingredients vary the taste of your recipes. Okay, we just took our turkey out. It cooked for 2 hours on 350, and then the last 10 minutes I bumped the heat up to 500 to crisp up that skin nice and brown. And then I removed about 2 tablespoons of fat from the turkey for our gravy here. So I'll go ahead and put that over on the stove to get it ready. We have now have our oven on 400 and the dressing is in, and it will cook for about 40 to 45 minutes till it's about 165 internal temperature. Okay, our dressing is in. It's been cooking for about 5 minutes, and I have removed the foam off of our neck and giblets here, so we're going to get that ready to make the gravy. I've got the drippings in the pan here waiting for the flour. This will all be done at the last minute. We want it to be nice and hot for our turkey, and then in just a few minutes I'm going to get started on cranberry sauce. Okay, we started on our cranberry sauce. I have the temperature on high. We're just going to melt this 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of water. Like I said before, once this starts to dissolve, this sugar, I will add the fresh cranberries, and we'll cook it for about 10 more minutes, and that will be just the perfect topping to our wonderful dressing that will be coming out in just a few. Okay, I've turned the sugar down to medium-high heat. I'm adding 12 ounces of fresh cranberries, and then we're just going to cook these, much like if you were making jelly. I'm going to cook these down until they make a beautiful cranberry sauce. It'll take about 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, our cranberry sauce is done. The trick is to keep it boiling for that 10 minutes. You see there's foam here. I'm just going to get the foam off the top, and then we'll put this in the refrigerator just in time for our meal to be done, and it'll be nice and cooled off. So our cranberry sauce is all done, and one thing I wanted to mention is if you wanted to add a little different taste while this is cooking, you could add a little vanilla, you could add some cinnamon, you could even add a little orange rind if you want. But I like the traditional taste of a little bit of a sour and sweet cranberry, so I'm going to leave it just like this. Okay, now it's time to make our gravy. We've got our drippings here in the pan. I'm heating them up, and we're going to make a roux, which is add a little flour, add a little at a time. You want to make sure that you cook all of that flour taste out. Don't add too much or it becomes like a paste. You just want to add a little at a time as this is heating up. If anybody messes up on gravy, this is the part where they mess up. And it happens to the best of us. So, just, there we go. Now we got it cooking here with gas. Put a little more flour. That cooked down, and then we're going to add, took the giblets and the neck bone out, and we're going to add our broth that we've been cooking all day. Add some more drippings, our broth. Okay, so I added about 3/4 cup of that broth and let that cook, and now I'm going to add cream. That's 1/3 cup of cream. Doesn't that look beautiful? Okay, our gravy's almost where we want it to be. If you have a lot of people, just double the broth and double the cream, and it'll make more. Okay? If you want to know how to make really great sawmill gravy, go check out one of our episodes, A White Gravy for Your Biscuits. It's one of our most popular episodes, so I'll put the link here in the video. And we're ready to serve it up. So here we have it, our wonderful Thanksgiving meal. We have our turkey, our cornbread dressing, cranberry sauce, gravy, green beans for color and crispness, and rolls. So from our house to yours, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.